Steve, to do today. And this one I actually caught recently. Late Night with the Devil. I actually caught
Watch
this one
that.
finally. I actually watched it.
How'd you like
Directors
that?
Cameron Carnes, Colin Carnes, writers Colin Carnes. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that last name wrong. Cameron Carnes. It starred David Dasmalicha, Laura Gordon, Ian Bliss. The story of a live television broadcast in 1977 that goes horribly wrong, unleashing into the nation's living rooms the devil. Okay, so, uh, so basically the movie is as it basically says. It's about a television show that supposedly existed in 1977 that was doing bad in ratings, and basically they needed to conjure up some acts live to bring people and to bring more of an audience. And Steve, this one again,
Hmm.
to me, on a story perspective, I had a problem with right off the bat.
Same.
However, though, the issue I had with it is probably not what people think. So, for a movie, because my audience, I don't like exorcism films. I think there's too many of them. I think the whole trope has just been done to death. However, though, this one was interesting. This one was interesting because I thought the idea of it was better than, I guess you could say, the execution. Because, and by execution, I mean at the goal line. Now, it was one of these movies for Rob.
It is.
So the whole movie is really interesting because here's what the problem was though at first. So when it starts off with this long narration about the history of the show, which I was like, what automatically
Why?
bothered me. It bothered me.
Yeah.
Yes,
Why?
Steve already knows where I'm going with this. It bothered me because I was like, why? Why are you trying to explain something that we all know is bullshit? This is basically the equivalent of you saying this is a true story we just made up.
Right. So
And
we needed that right in the beginning. It was like automatic cool down because I was like, oh, cool. Are they gonna go right into it? And you get this. You're
right.
like, what the fuck?
But what made that funny, and I know my co-host is going to agree on this one, is that story that the narrator tells is in the movie because
Mm-hmm.
they do the lost footage aspect, but they also do a behind the scenes as well, which I thought was pretty cool because they even use like a different kind of camera and it's in black and white. And basically they tell you pretty much the whole story that the show is in trouble, that, the main character's wife has died. He's in mourning, and this is also why he's trying to get ratings, because he's at the point of where he's just like, I have nothing to lose. And so they bring on the first act, which is a guy who does a bunch of cold calling, and it basically ends as everyone knows, cold calling is bullshit. The guy's trying to basically find like a John Edwards type of thing, but then he gets a real vision, and it's basically he gets possessed. And and then it's because of the next guest who he has, which is basically this writer and this girl who she's basically done her book on, who she essentially brings the devil out on. So I thought this movie, for what it was super cool.
Yeah.
Super
It's
cool.
really, really cool premise, man.
It's a really cool premise. But here's where it really, really, really kind of fell apart. So the whole movie is great because you have the exorcism element, you have the levitation, you didn't have the green spit, but you had a lot of the other cool stuff. You had the critic in the show was amazing too. I loved his aspect, how he was basically debunking everything, to the point of where he has to demonstrate how hypnotism works, which was a good trick in the movie as well. But it had everything you would want from a horror and exorcism film. Not very scary. I wouldn't say this movie was scary at all. I mean,
it was more surreal.
It was more surreal. But here, and this is going to be a big spoilers, my audience. Here's where the movie fell apart for me. And you're going to say, "Well, Rob, you're speaking really good about this movie. I might want to see it." You should, because it is good. Among the exorcism films that I've seen, and I've seen a lot, this one was different. This one was a lot better. You had the element of Jack Delroy, the main host, basically, sacrificing his wife to the devil to get ratings, and she went along with it. And you have the twists and the turns of the little girl knowing that he's also banging the girl who's writing the book, so that's how they know each other and everything. So, there's also those twists. But right at the goal line, right when we're getting some good stuff, and I was like, okay, this is starting to get kind of chaotic, a little bit, kind of getting a little 1408 here in the movie. She just busts open her head and just opens it up like some giant plant lady, like a fucking electrode, like.
Yes. I was like, why did they do that, dude? It became stupid.
And you know what's so funny, Steve? This is one of the first times I've watched a movie, and I was literally saying, why did you guys do that? It was actually really going really well. You probably could have even done and gotten away with it, a fade out on the camera of like end of show. I would have probably been satisfied with that. I was like, oh shit, okay, so the show ended. That would have been a decent ending. But instead you had this out of her head like she's static shock or some shit. And basically, then it goes into like this 1408 premise and then basically ends, which it should have ended like a ways back.
I feel like that was the biggest flop of the movie, dude, because it left a bad taste in my mouth, man. I was like, damn, man, like that's your ending, dude.
Right. That's what I said.
Why, bro? Like you had everything setting up to be like a late night TV show where they kind of just go, okay, that's the end of the show, and they fade to black. Why didn't you do that? You had to do the whole like weird, like, yeah.
It was like almost like somebody was like, they were like, literally, I think they were in the studio and someone was like, oh, yeah, this is, and then we'll cut out and they're like, no, you got to bring it home. And they're like, what? And they're like, yeah, you got to have some fucking, you got to like have lightning coming out of her head and shit. Right. And someone has to go, the power of Christ compels you. And, they have to do a callback to the exorcism. Like, that's what I think. That's what I think has to happen. And it's like, I didn't need any of that because I like the movie. And this is literally, I guess I can say this is one of those movies I can literally say I liked about 75% of the film. 75% of it I liked.
Yeah. I think you know what I didn't like, dude? And I think I'm agreeing with you again on this. I didn't like the beginning. I didn't like the end. But everything else in the middle,
everything else was good. It was like good. Two things were inserted. It really was. It was like really inserted.
The beginning for sure.
Absolutely.
I was like, what the fuck is this? I almost gave up on watching it, man. I was like, all right, this is lame.
See, my co-host, ladies and gentlemen, because we've seen so many movies, and there's a thing in movies called holding the audience's hand, which is where they think you are too stupid to basically figure out a plot device for yourself. And so basically they'll do a narration, or they'll have a character explain this superpower to the character, or basically so you can get the same information. And while it works in some aspects, other times it's like completely unnecessary. And this is one of the times it was really unnecessary because the movie would have almost been like its own mystery for you to figure out if they wouldn't have had that narration. And it just would have been better if it didn't have that narration. And the end is what was the bad guy in Iron Man 2? The one with all the
Mickey Rourke's character, yeah.
That's right. That's what
it was like that. Little tentacle things.
I just
it's just like I just think, dude, they were like, we have to have some type of like body gore thing going on.
That was fine.
People were thinking like it's got the devil in the name, so we got to do something crazy. It's like,
it wasn't the devil. It
wasn't
like...
though, dude. It was like I don't even know what it was.
It was a fucking jellyfish right there. It was like... doing that.
And if people are gonna be like, why are you so hard in this movie? It wasn't that bad. I'm like, you didn't see the ending then, because it was really bad, dude. And it was just like
it was a big letdown for such a decent film. It was a big letdown for a decent film. It really was.
Dude, even when the girl was possessed and
that was cool.
I liked it, and I thought I was gonna not like that part. That's the thing. Exactly. I was like, here we, whatever. It's gonna be the
same way,
right? But then after a while, I was like, oh, hey, they're doing something here, and then they do that, and I'm like, what, dude? Like, we don't need this weird like, it's a creep show ending. It just ends. I'm like, no, dude, you did it horribly.
Right. It was bad. God. So I guess we could. I guess I can keep making fun because it was.
Yeah, we could just make fun of the
Yeah,
ending, dude. It sucked.
because it was so bad.
But
So I guess I'm gonna give Late Night with the Devil after I seen it. I even said after I seen it, everyone was like, "Would you give it?" I was like, "I give it a 6. I think it's okay." You know, and the only reason I give it a 6 is because it's unique among the exorcism films.
right.
And it has nothing. And when I say exorcism films, I'm not talking, and some of you out there quit playing word salad with things with me. You know what I'm getting at. And when I say that, I don't mean actually like it's the sequel or prequel to the actual. I mean exorcism, like people floating and demon possessed.
Floating, and then it just insert typical thing here.
Right. It was decent. And like it was the acting was good. They really did have what I'm gonna give it more of a really high rating on was the atmosphere, because the atmosphere was pretty good.
That was good.
It really had me believing for a moment like I'm watching like this old show. But again, that narration and being like, "Here's a true story we just made up," really did like set
that made
for
it
a long
seem
time.
Really low.
It bothered me. Yeah, it bothered me for a while.
I was just like, it took a while because I was just
get over
like
it.
Watching. Yeah, dude, I know.
See,
this is why we're hosting shit, because I was like, bro, I was sitting there for a good like 2 minutes afterward. I was just like,
critical, cynical movie podcast on the internet, ladies and gentlemen.
But and I know people are gonna not like our opinion on this, but like think about what we're saying. It's like we stuck in there and said, no, this movie's good, but the intro really punches you in the face to not like it, dude.
Yeah. The intro, I said the same thing. I was like, man, this movie's going a long way to try and get me not to like it off the bat. Not to like it.
And then I'm like, I like it. I like it. It's good.
What that intro did, and I know our good movie buffs are going to love this, what that intro did was equivalent to a 90s credit scenes in movies. Remember those long credit scenes in the movies when you're like, oh, because you could definitely feel, I'm definitely watching a movie from the 90s, because there is like 10 minutes of just like music and some wall with some titles on it.
Like, geez, you didn't have a third act at all. You're just like, yeah, it's just
like the credit scenes are the first act.
dude, that's not even a joke.
So, what would you give Late Night with the Devil, Steve?
I'd give it a 6 as well, man. I think maybe it's good enough to watch. If you want to fast forward a couple of scenes, I don't blame you, but it's good. It's good watch, man.
Yeah,
good.
It's good watch.